Hi, so thanks again for joining us today for a Mini Grants Informational Workshop. My name is Robert Marmito, and I'm a management analyst who supports Valley Water's Safe Clean Water Grants and Partnerships program. We are excited to share about our new mini grant program and changes, and we will also give you some tips along the way to help you develop a strong application. But before we do that, I'd first like our team to introduce ourselves. So I'll go with the people I see first on my screen, and that is Renee.
Good evening, everyone. Rene Moreno, Management Analyst supporting our Grants and Partnership program. Welcome and looking forward to sharing a little bit more about our program. I'll hand it over to Amy.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amy Fonseca. I'm the Supervising Program Administrator for the Grants and Partnership Program, and I look forward to spending an hour with you. I will go ahead and pass it off to Clarissa.
Hi, everybody. Clarissa Sanglang, and I am a staff analyst in our Grants and Partnerships program. And I'll pass it to our last person, Michael.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Lee, Senior Management Analyst. I work also with our Grants and Partnerships program, overseeing predominantly standard grants, and great to have you tonight.
Okay, so on the agenda tonight, we will be doing a quick introduction to Valley Water and our Safe Clean Water program and our mission. We'll be introducing the new mini grant program. There are quite a few changes, so I don't know if you're new with us or if you are a returning applicant or grantee, welcome back. But we have made some significant changes. And then in the second half, Robert and Clarissa will be doing some scope writing and budget best practices and tips. And then we will be around to answer questions. So in the first section, we'll hold questions, but you go ahead and type them into the question and answer section, and then we'll answer them. We'll kind of have to see how time goes. We'll likely get to them in the middle of the program, but they are important to us, so feel free to go ahead and type those in. Next slide. Okay, so quickly introducing Valley Water. We are the Santa Clara Valley Water District. For those of you not familiar with us, we're also known as Valley Water. We recently rebranded. We are a special district in the state of California, and we're most known for being the wholesalers for drinking water for the Santa Clara County. But we also manage the region's waterways and flood protection activities. And then we're also involved in helping with flood protection and activities to create a healthy creek and ecosystem. So as you know, Valley Water's mission is to provide Silicon Valley, so Santa Clara County, with safe, clean water for a healthy life, environment, and economy. So each of our grant funding opportunities, you'll notice, are based on these three pillars that guide our agency. So these pillars are, again, safe, clean water, flood protection, healthy creeks, and ecosystems. Next slide. Okay, so our grant funding is provided by the Safe Clean Water and Natural Flood Protection Program. We call that Safe Clean Water for short. So our outgoing funding opportunities are administered by our team that you see here, the Grants and Partnership team, and we are housed under our External Affairs Division. The grant program is funded through a voter-approved special parcel tax called the Safe Clean Water and Natural Flood Protection Program, as I mentioned, Safe Clean Water for short. And this program was originally approved by voters back in 2012, and then it was renewed again in November 2020. So this renewal allows Valley Water to continue to reinvest approximately $47 million every 15 years into local programs and projects that deliver safe, clean water and natural flood protection and environmental stewardship to all the communities within Santa Clara County. So in this renewed Safe Clean Water program, all of the grants and partnerships were consolidated under Project F9, we call it, and that is grants and partnerships for, again, safe clean water, flood protection, and environmental stewardship. And under that priority, we have 4 grant opportunities. So we have our standard grants, which are our competitive grants. You'll be hearing announcements about that pretty soon in the next few months. We have the mini grants, which we'll talk about today and present. We also have water bottle filling stations and partnership opportunities. Again, today we'll just be focusing on the mini grants and the recent updates, as well as helping you with your application, but we do have those other funding opportunities available. So next slide. Yes, so
All right. I think I can take this one. Yeah, so our mini grant program is designed to provide seed funding to encourage community engagement in activities that further safe, clean drinking water and water conservation, flood protection, and environmental stewardship in Santa Clara County. Next slide, please. So we're excited to share some new updates to our mini grant program this year. Based on the feedback that we received from our grantees, we've developed recommendations and worked with a consultant to streamline and right-size our mini grant program. These recommendations were then approved by our board of directors this year, and now we are ready to implement these changes into this new cycle of funding. And so, as you can see on your screen, these updates include an increased grant award amount of $10,000, removing the 25% match funding that we required from applicants, a new streamlined online application, and in addition, insurance costs are now eligible costs for your project budget, which we'll get to later in this presentation. Next slide. So this slide is about applicant eligibility. So as you can see on your screen, we're going to be providing opportunities for public agencies, 501c3 nonprofit organizations, schools, and as well as for-profit organizations. Next slide, please.
Okay, project eligibility. So as I mentioned before, we're looking for projects related to our 3 pillars. So eligible projects must have a strong connection to those. So they have to be connected to safe, clean drinking water, flood protection, and environmental stewardship. As you prepare to write your scope, we encourage you to think about how your project ties to one of these 3 pillars and the items that our mission are based on. Next slide. Okay, application requirements. To view and access the applications for both programs, we have a dedicated portal system. It's called Flux, which you can access from our website and is also listed on the slide. And I believe Renee may be putting that in the chat. We also released updated mini grant guidelines. That document is accessible on our grant website. That'll answer a lot of your questions and provide quite a bit of guidance about the application and eligibility. We'd like to emphasize that we are only accepting applications through our online grants portal, which is, again, Flux. We won't be accepting hard copies or emailed applications. If you need assistance, you can always reach out to us. You'll first get started by registering yourself in the system and your organization, if it's not already registered. You'll need to create an account in order to view the online application. If you have any questions or encounter any difficulties, again, you can feel free to reach out to us and we will gladly assist you. We also have a pre-recorded demonstration video of the Flux portal that can guide you and assist you if you've never used the system before. There are 3 important documents that you'll need to include when submitting your application. These documents ensure that we have all the necessary information and permissions to proceed with our compliance checks and move forward with the grantee process. So we'll require a signed W-9 tax form. This provides basic information about your organization's tax ID number and verifies your organization's status. Secondly, we request site permissions if you are going to be hosting things at a physical location. So we'll need permission from the property owner. If you're not the property owner, you can provide a letter that demonstrates your organization has authorization to use the site for your project. And some common examples include things like lease agreements, property owner letters, permits from relative authorities like use permits. We may also require additional verification to show that the person signing the letter has the authority to grant you permission. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll also need, finally, the delegation of authority letter. So this letter serves as confirmation that the individual signing the application on your behalf has the authority to do so, to legally bind you. This can look like a board resolution, meeting minutes, or an organizational policy. And these documents will ensure that there's a clear paper trail and that we can move your grant forward and get you well on your way. Next slide.
All right, so we'd like to go through a step-by-step guide to help you get familiar with the application process itself. So step one, you are going to check our website to see if any of our grant funding opportunities fit with your organization and your proposed project. We also have a variety of resources available to help you determine what you need and how to obtain them. For step two, go into the Flux portal and register yourself and your organization to access the online application. Step three, fill out the online application on Flux, upload all the required documents, and hit submit. Grant staff will then review your application and reach out to you for any additional feedback or questions. And as a general reminder, grant staff is here to work with you on submitting your application and facilitating the entire grant process. And you can always reach out to us or schedule a meeting via our Calendly link posted on our website. So here's an overview of the mini grant application process and timeline. Once you submit your application on Flux for these, grant staff will review it and may request a meeting with you to clarify any questions. Simultaneously, we will submit your proposal to our CEQA staff for their environmental review. This step ensures compliance with what is called the California Environmental Quality Act. If your application is selected for funding, we will typically notify you within 4 to 6 weeks after submission. After the award notification, we will work closely with you to draft the agreement, make revisions to the scope and budget, and finalize the agreement. And during this time, we may also request any necessary insurance documentation. Now, once the agreement is executed, meaning both parties have signed the agreement, you can begin working on your project. At this stage, we will release 50% of the grant funding, so up to $5,000. And upon project completion, you'll then submit a final report. Our team will review it, and upon approval, release the remaining 50% of the funds. And we really strive to ensure a smooth process with our grants. And so our goal is to support you throughout the journey of your mini grant project. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So for every project, they're required to be insured for the entire term of the agreement. All insurance endorsements must receive approval before finalizing the agreement. And so this ensures that the necessary coverage is in place and provides the necessary protection for both parties involved. Grantees are expected to comply with the insurance requirements and maintain coverage for the following insurance policies: general liability, auto liability, and workers' compensation as applicable to the project. Now, we understand that different types of projects may require unique insurance needs. And so we aim to work collaboratively to adjust or waive insurance requirements as needed on a case-by-case basis. In addition to insurance coverage, Valley Water must comply with what I had mentioned before, the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. So as a public agency, we are required to have a CEQA review for all projects, including grants. CEQA requires Valley Water to analyze a project's potential environmental impact, as I had stated before, and our internal environmental planning unit handles all of the reviews for these. Applicants do not need to have a completed CEQA review prior to submitting their application. CEQA is completed once the environmental planning unit provides signed documentation of compliance. However, as part of our process, we may have additional inquiries or requests for the applicant/grantee to ensure compliance with CEQA requirements. Please be reminded that only a CEQA planner can determine the CEQA review required and not grant staff.
So just a reminder, the CEQA stuff can get a little complicated. If you're not super familiar with that, we are here to help out. But like Michael said, it does require a certified CEQA planner. For some projects, the process goes quick, but for others, it can take a little bit more time. So just keep that in mind. Okay, a couple important things to note. You have 2 years from the date the agreement is executed, so both parties sign the agreement to complete these tasks. You'll need to ensure public access. Because this is taxpayer dollars we're using to fund this program, it's important that the public has access to the project or the deliverables. So for us, public access means that the project should be either free of charge to any member of the public, or the grantee should possess a process in place to allow public members to participate by waiving associated fees. Again, this will, be determined by your particular project, just some general guidelines. And this really ensures that Santa Clara County residents can benefit from the project. We do ask that you not begin any of the project activities or incur any costs such as purchasing items or paying for different items prior to the agreement effective date, so the date that both parties sign. We are only able to pay for activities that occur between the agreement period. So once the project is signed and is complete. So we want to make sure that folks aren't out there purchasing items or spending money that they may not be able to be reimbursed on. If you have any questions related to your application or the grant projects, again, our grant staff is always here to assist. We can help you ensure that there's proper coordination with internal Valley Water teams to ensure that you're getting the communication you need from our different units, such as permitting. And then we'll also coordinate any communication with the board of directors. So if you want to invite them to an event, that is fantastic. We would love that. Just let us know and we can help you coordinate that. So we're really your shepherds for the project, our team. Next slide. Okay, got a couple of samples for you. The first one is the Marshmallow on the Mines project. This one, the grantee implemented a pilot environmental STEAM project, so science, technology, engineering, art, and math, for elementary students, as you can see here. And they created lessons that had STEAM kits for hands-on classroom learning about technology and water-related items. Next slide, please. All right, so this beautiful image you see here is another mini grant project that we funded through our mini grant program. It's the Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful Coyote Watershed Mural out at Empire Gardens Elementary. So these folks were awarded a $5,000 grant to create this mural, and they worked with faculty and the students to design and paint the mural. And it really raises awareness about the Coyote Creek to the students and the residents, where they can learn about the local birds and fish and other wildlife that live around the creek. So very cool project. We do have a video, but we can link that in the chat if you want to check it out. Next slide, please.
So we strongly encourage you to take the next step and apply for funding through our grant programs. You can honestly begin today by visiting our grants portal on our website and register your organization in the Flex Grant Management System. In addition, we have valuable resources available on our website to support you in your application process. So we highly recommend exploring our mini grant website for more information, any FAQs, and other resources to help guide you through this process. And as mentioned, we also have another year-round grant opportunity available through Valley Water's Refill Station Grant Program. Now, these grants are designed to provide funding for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of new water bottle refill stations to expand drinking water access throughout Santa Clara County. And we're especially interested in locations that serve underserved communities or school-aged children and students. And so for these grants, there is no deadline, so you may apply at any time. And grantees for the mini grants program will receive up to $5,000 per refill station until those funds run out. Now, once an agreement has been executed, the grantee will receive 50% of the funds upfront, similar to mini grants, and the remaining grant funds will be dispersed upon project completion with photo documentation. And if you want any more information about mini grants or about applicant eligibility and the grant process as a whole, please visit us at valleywater.org/grants. Again, that's valleywater.org/grants, or you can contact us at grants@valleywater.org. We also have a phone line number that you can use to contact us. That's 408-630-2080.
Great. Before we jump into the second half, I wanted to stop and see if there were any questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question and answer box. You can also raise your hand using the raise hand feature, and we can unmute you if you'd like to ask directly. So I don't see any yet. So we'll go ahead and keep going, but I'll keep an eye out for your questions and we'll try to answer them as soon as we can. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Amy. All right, so now that we covered the overview of our mini grant program, we will now be going over how to craft your scope and your budget for the mini grant application. So in this section, we're really excited to kind of walk you through some of the tips and helpful advice that we could offer you with our new online mini grant application. Next slide, please. So just a quick reminder that we utilize grants management system called Flux. This is the one-stop hub where you could access your applications, upload any of your documents, and see the status of your grant project. As mentioned, you could register yourself on Flux today through our website or directly through the Flux portal. Next slide, please. All right, so an overview of the scope and budget. The scope outlines three of the most important things about your project. It identifies your project's objectives and deliverables. It defines key tasks and milestones, and it highlights the purpose and impact of your project. Your budget, on the other hand, is just a summary of the major expense categories and funding sources that go into the activities of your project. And it includes cash expenses and in-kind contributions. So we do have a template for the budget that's linked on our resource page for you to download and use as well. And we will be going more over that and the scope in the next few slides. Next slide, please. And I'll pass it to Clarissa to introduce the scope.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, so scope. After reviewing many applications and drafting many agreements, we realized that it would be very helpful to create a scope framework that could apply to most mini grant projects. So that framework starts with the background, and then the project objectives, and then the tasks, which we will go into some more in a little bit. And last, the expected outcomes. Next slide. Okay, so the task. Before we get into the anatomy of the task, there's an important tip here on the screen. The deliverables that are part of your task should be realistic, achievable, and measurable. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Next slide. Okay, so tasks. As you can see there, tasks are activities that you will do to meet your project objectives. And for most mini grant projects, we realize that tasks can be organized into 4 different categories. So you see that on the right side: planning and design, outreach and community participation, implementation, and evaluation and closeout. So now I'll pass it off to Robert and he'll go into each of these tasks.
All right. Yeah, so here's an example of how each task can be organized in your application. Thank you. For each category, we encourage you to list out the activities that are taking place and the deliverables you aim to accomplish. So in the next slide, we kind of pre-filled some examples for what a sample project would look like. And in this sample project, the scope of the work is to build a community garden. So as you can see for task 1, planning and design, an example task would include something like conducting site surveys to conduct soil health and retrieving any necessary permits to start, the work on your proposed site. The deliverable, which is the anticipated outcome, could include things like survey results, photos, copies of the permits, and anything that you could, document that you've carried out your task and you've completed, the planning and design portion of your project. And then same goes down the list. So you have your outreach and community participation, your implementation, and your evaluation and closeout. So, these are just some of the example things that could go into each bucket, but we just wanted to make it clear again that the deliverables that you list out must be realistic, measurable, and achievable, because those are the things that we look for once your project is completed. We do ask for some documentation of all the tasks that you do, and that's how we basically review that your project is completed, and we pay out the remaining funds of your grant project. Next slide, please. All right, so how does the scope and budget connect? So the budget lists, all of the costs that go into the tasks of your project. As you're developing your budget, you can align, all these budget categories to each task category, which will make a lot more sense in the next slide that is shown. So this table is actually taken from the online mini grant application. So as you can see here, it's already pre-filled with each of the tasks. So you have your planning and design, your outreach and community participation, your implementation, and your evaluation and closeout. On the application, you'll have the option to list out the values for each category or each task. So the first column, it'll show you an option to list out how much you are contributing to that task. So if you're planning and designing a community garden, and you're putting in like $500, you could type that in there. And then the grant request could be however much of the grant award amount you are requesting for that specific task. So you're just going to be repeating that throughout each task. You kind of just plan out what the anticipated costs are for each task. And again, you could request all the way up to $10,000 for your mini grant projects. Next slide, please. All right, so as you prepare your scope and budget, it is important to keep in mind some of the do's and don'ts that are required for a mini grant program. So we specifically require that projects do not contain any advocacy, lobbying efforts, or any other political component. Again, your projects must be accessible by the public. The deliverables must be realistic, achievable, and demonstratable. And we want to just also remind you that your insurance, if required by your project, can be included in your budget. And we do ask that you list it out under the planning and design task portion of your budget sheet. All right, and I think that pretty much wraps up some of just the important things that we wanted to talk to you about regarding your scope and budget. Before we move on to the questions and answers segment, we do wanted to just plug in a survey on the workshop tonight. I believe it's already in the chat, but the QR code is here on the screen. So if you could kindly, take a few minutes just to take the survey, it'll greatly help us kind of improve the process and to keep in mind what we could include in the next workshop. So your feedback is very valuable, and we do appreciate any comments that you may have. And again, if you want to reach out to grant staff, we are more than happy to help you out. Our contact information is on the screen, and I believe it's also in the chat. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to us if you want to schedule a meeting with us too. You can go on our webpage and click on the Calendly link. That would allow you to kind of find a convenient time for you to meet, and it'll schedule a Zoom meeting with any one of us. All right, so I think we actually have a lot of time for questions, so.
Yeah, we got through that quick. Great job, team. Okay, so our first question, and go ahead and put those questions in the chat. You can also raise your hand, but I'll go ahead and start with the first one. Hi, I'm one of Valley Water's youth commissioners. Hello. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are currently thinking about hosting some webinars and presentations for more awareness about some of the grant projects to high school students. I was wondering if this mini grant program is open to high schoolers. Also, what would be the most useful information to share at the schools to get the word out about the funding? We are currently thinking about presenting, but would like any advice you have. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today and for being willing to spread the word. So this looks like it's got a couple parts to it. So I'll first start with the eligibility piece. So is the mini grant open to high schoolers? The answer is yes. We have had some high schoolers be part of the application process. However, they usually work with a nonprofit or their school organization or a PTA. So typically they do have some kind of sponsor that is the actual grantee, but the high school students get together and they put together a scope and they help out with the application. So high schoolers can definitely be involved in the process. They can drive the process. Do encourage you though to reach out either to your school district or PTA, or if your club is a nonprofit, that can be helpful because remember, you do need to be able to provide a W-9 as well as the insurance, depending on what your project is. But yes, certainly we encourage high schoolers to be involved. Same goes for the refill station. Again, you'll need the property owner, which is usually the school or the school district, and some organization, usually the school district or a PTA, to sign on your behalf. Usually the contract is with the school district. But you can certainly be involved in the application process. We do have an example of that. I don't know, Clarissa, if you want to share your experience with the students.
Yeah, actually, we have refill station grants. It's been awarded, and the group that spearheaded it was a Girl Scout troop. So they're actually elementary school students, and their troop leader, worked with them to answer the questions on the application. And they also worked with the school and the school district, for the permissions, the documented permissions from the property owner, as well as the delegation of authority. But the answers to the application questions were from the troop. So it's very possible for high school students and just students to be involved in this application process.
Great. Yeah, we've also worked, I think we've worked with Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts to do different leadership projects. Again, they worked with their club organization, the nonprofit, but have seen a couple of different examples. Let's see, what's the next part of this? What would be the most useful information? So we do, if you check out our social media page, we have quite a bit of some different posts that you can share. You could also, we have some flyers and emails. If you want to contact us directly, we're happy to provide those to you. Yeah, and so I think in your case, if you wanted to chat with us or meet with us, be happy to talk with you about what you have in mind. And yeah, we're always excited when we see enthusiasm from high schoolers and the youth. So hopefully that answers your question. Certainly stay in touch. And if you maybe coordinate with the Youth Commission coordinator in civic engagement, he can certainly put you in contact with us to set something up. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, you're welcome. Okay, next one. May local jurisdictions apply to offset budget needs for outreach campaigns? That's an interesting question. So our grant funding can't fund operational budget. So if you're talking about offsetting an operational budget, like just your day-to-day work, regular business, we wouldn't be able to fund that. It would have to be a project. So a project typically has a start date and an end date and has a special aim or goal. And then once that goal is met, it ends. So it kind of depends on what you have in mind. An outreach campaign, if the project itself is an outreach campaign that's like something new you haven't done before, you'd kind of have to think, well, is that a project? How does it fit? So I would say in your case, you might want to schedule an appointment with us so we can kind of talk about your specific ideas. But we have funded outreach. Campaigns, really depends. We don't, typically fund political things. So as long as it's not something and as long as it's related to our 3 pillars, safe, clean water, natural flood protection, and environmental stewardship, it could be a possibility. So hopefully that answers that. Yeah, great questions. Still going to be around for questions. So go ahead and feel free to pop them in the chat. I mean, in the Q&A box, or you can always raise your hand too. And we thank you again for spending some time with us. We will hang out for another couple minutes, see if any questions come in. Oh, got a hand raised. Okay, I'm gonna unmute Marissa. Go ahead, Marissa.
Hi, Marisa here. I have
sorry.
that's okay, you're fine. I have a nonprofit I'm creating currently, and we work with children and families out in nature, and we're looking at doing a stewardship project and wanted to create something for them, but we would need some teachers with me to be teaching the curriculum, how we design to support this stewardship project and creating awareness for water. We're not quite sure exactly what we're going to do, but would the funding support the payroll for teacher if teachers were needed to support the teaching of the curriculum? Is that how the funding is? That's not part of operational. I'm not quite sure. Haven't applied for a grant before, so this will all be new to us as we build this program.
Yeah, sure. Good question. So we have funded different aspects of, I think maybe what you're talking about is like curriculum development and presenting it. So the curriculum development, yes, we could pay staff hours. Again, it has to be a project. So like if you're developing a new curriculum related to water, environmental stewardship of the creek, something new, then we can certainly fund the development of the curriculum. We could fund the teachers learning the curriculum. If it's a special curriculum, you're doing some kind of event, like a fair or something, or some summer program for a week, we could certainly look at funding that. So it's pretty wide open. The definition between operation and project can get a little fuzzy, so we can certainly meet with you one-on-one to kind of get an idea of what you're talking about. But I would think in general, as long as it's something new, and we're supporting kicking that and getting it off the ground. If at some point it does become, part of your regular curriculum, that's great. We would definitely could potentially fund the development of that and the training of the teachers. I'm not sure if that answered your question. Feel free to follow up.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We've also just, since we're on the topic, we've also had instructors develop curriculum and do things like hands-on activities like native gardens, or showing kids how to conserve water with drought-tolerant plants. Different like field trips where they go out and do, I don't know, learn about the native flora and fauna. There's a ton of examples. If you go onto our website, if you go there, you'll see a list of previous projects. Not that, you want to repeat that, but it might inspire you and kind of give you some ideas of the different things that we've funded. Okay. Still got some time. We'll stick around a couple minutes, see if there are any other questions. But again, you're always welcome to give us a call, set up an appointment through our website. Check out our website and see the information and resources and then the different projects that we've funded in the past. It'd be helpful to you. Oh, yes. And before you leave, don't forget to take our survey. I don't know if that link was shared, but that helps us improve our workshops. And because we are this is a new program, a new pilot, we're looking for any kind of feedback to help us improve our programming. Okay, I got a clarifying question from Sabrina. Just to clarify, can staff time be considered eligible costs for this grant, specifically around 1/4 of the budget request? Yes, so it can if it's part of the project, right? So if you have a specific start time and end time and a goal, but yes, it could be eligible. If the staff is spending time developing the project, working on the project, we wouldn't be able to fund like just regular, if you already have program in place and you have a full-time employee and they're doing day-to-day business like administration, office administration, or teaching is their regular job, but we couldn't fund those type of activities. But if they are involved in developing a project or getting a project off the ground or some kind of special event, anything like that, then we could fund the hours that staff spent engaged in those activities. Good question. And there's no limit as far as like if it's 100% of the total budget or 50%. It really depends on the project and how many hours. So you'd want to think about, okay, what are you doing? How much staff time does it take to plan it? How much staff time does it take to actually do the event or programming? How much time you need for administration? But then also the other, what we call direct costs, so like the supplies, like do you need office supplies? Do you need art supplies to deliver the project? If it's a garden, do you need gardening supplies? Do you need rakes and seeds and plants? And then do you need to hire somebody to help you out with something like maybe a painter or something? So it really depends on what the project is, but there really is no hard and fast rule about the percentage that can go towards personnel and supplies. Hopefully that answers that. Okay, question is, can we get copies of the slides? Yes, we'll send a follow-up email to all the attendees, but the slides are on our website, valleywater.org/grants, and then they'll be on the mini grant page. But we'll go ahead and send out that link. Oh, Renee already did it. He's on top of it. That'll be sent out with the email as well. Keep an eye on that. You'll probably get it tomorrow. And the video recordings will also be available online. I think the last workshop we did last week is currently online already. We'll post this one as well. All right, we will go ahead and sign off. And I want to thank the team and thank the participants. It was great hearing all your questions. You guys had some really good ones. So keep an eye out for that email. We also have a frequently asked question document that we update from time to time, but of course you're always welcome to reach out. We're very nice, so we'd like to hear from you.